Hey everyone, Felipe here. Welcome to another Tower of Saviors card review video. In this video, I'll be talking about the Intoxicating Charm Seal, which I know it's pretty late. It's been out for 2 weeks, but I really wanted to talk about this because it is a brand new Madhead original series, and it's been a very long time since they've done one of these. I really wanted to talk about it. And definitely because the era of novelty seal is definitely not it in my opinion, so having a brand new diamond seal is pretty exciting for me. This is going to be a smaller seal than the regular ones because it only has 2 jackpot cards and 4 non-jackpot cards, which is pretty small in comparison. But yeah, without further ado, let's get talking about them. So, looking at the 1% jackpot card, we have Ling Dai, which is a Earth Demon card, and her leader skill and team skills are actually pretty good in my opinion. Her leader skill has plenty of attack multipliers, combo increases, and also damage reduction if you need it. But where she truly shines is going to be her team skill. She has a lot of staples like extra runestone movement time, runestone possession effect, and you also have a lot of utility, ignoring burning runes, and you're also ignoring cracked positions, as well as nullifying skill activation penalty, which is a brand new passive effect that we have. This is when the enemy deducts your HP every time you activate a skill, and this is the first card that I know of that will allow you to negate this effect. So this is going to be pretty good. But her, you also have enemy dodging of each, dodge the first attack of each enemy in the round. However, this part is going to be her main core mechanic for her playstyle. It is it is going to be a 6 talisman position at the end of each round and entering a stage where the more talisman positions you dissolve, the more effects you gain. So when you dissolve 1, you get extra attack. When you dissolve 2, you get utility, ignoring shields. When you dissolve 3 or more, you fully recover HP. When you dissolve 4 or more, you get skill cooldown reductions and EP gain for elves and demons. When you dissolve 5, everyone enters a hyper state, so basically a times 2 team attack bonus. And when you dissolve 6, all damage will be reduced to 0, including percentage reduction and bloody scythe, etc. So her core mechanic is going to be pretty good. And if you're able to basically dissolve 6 talismans every round, you basically will not die because you will be nullifying all the damage you're taking. And this is not hard to do because her team skill also allows you to generate a full board of enchanted attributive runestones by triggering a character rune. And this is trigger, not dissolve, so it is a guaranteed full board whenever you trigger or activate a character rune. So this is going to be pretty amazing. And normally this is where I would stop and talk about the leader skill, but in order for me to about her as a leader, we do need to look at her active skill this time. CD6 active skill and actually has a lot of utility. She stuns all enemies. You release all the lock skills for intoxicating charms. You also clear fatigue, hypnotize, windswept, and paralyze for them, which is pretty good. You remove tornado for 1 round, which is also pretty good. Pretty situational, but pretty good. And you ignore duo, trio, quartet, and quintelemental shield, as well as number attack shield. And this one here gives a lot of utility because of the elemental shields, but most importantly, the number attack shield. As far as I know, this is going to be the first card that helps you ignore those. So this is when the enemy needs to take, for example, 30 hits before they receive damage. You can just ignore that and deal damage regardless of. So overall, it has pretty good utility, but the reason why I wanted to talk about this skill is the second effect actually. All enemies will be parasitized, and you will deal a non-attributive damage of 30 times the enemy's defense plus 1 million to each enemy regardless of defense and enemy skills at the end of each round, and this effect can be superimposed at max 3 times. So basically this is a very much upgraded version of Verdandi, the Earth Norse Norn, like the Norse goddess. Um, and And honestly, this pairs really well with her team skill, and which is why I wanted to talk about it. So, going back to her leader skill, she is a pretty good leader in terms of damage output. She has the attack multipliers in her leader skill in order to sustain the current meta, but also by dissolving your talismans, you also get a 3.5 attack bonus as well as hyper states, which will help you deal more damage. So she is a pretty good leader damage wise, and she also has the utility in her team skill to support that. However, there is another side to her leader skill that I'm actually pretty happy to see, because this is basically the return of stall teams. And the last stall team that we had was Wukong Daji, and that was about 8 years ago, pretty much. And if you're new to the game and don't know what the stall team in Tower of Saviors is basically you bring in a team that doesn't take damage at all, and you bring in a member, in this case Verdandi, which can absorb the enemy's HP every round, and you basically just sit there until the enemy dies. And here's the thing, right? As enemy HPs kept increasing as the game progressed, this Wukong Daji team with Verdandi stopped being useful because enemy HP was way too high for Verdandi to deal any significant damage with her skill because she scaled off of her own attack. And as you know, hard attacks at most go up to 5,000, and Verdandi had like 2,000 attack. And even if you can superimpose it 3 times, it's not gonna deal anything to the enemy. It's just basically shit absorption, right? But in this case, her skill scales off the enemy's defense. And nowadays, enemy defense has also increased alongside enemy HP. And the average enemy will have about 20 million, 30 million defense. And if you multiply that by 30, you're dealing about 180 million damage. Wait, I mean 90 million damage to an enemy that has 3 million defense. Or 3 million defense, you deal 90 damage. 30 million defense, you're dealing 900 million damage. And this, in my tests, is actually pretty significant chunk of HP. It's still gonna take about like 20 to 25 rounds to kill the enemy. But the important thing is that this HP absorption goes through regardless of any enemy skills. And this is why I say this is the return of stall teams, because if you remember correctly, you do not die with this team. As long as you trigger any character rune, you have a full board of attributed runestones, and by dissolving a full board, you're 100% guaranteed to dissolve all 6 talisman positions, which means that all your damage received will be lowered to 0. Basically, you can just pull character rune after character rune after character rune, don't receive damage, and the enemy's HP will be absorbed by Ling Daiyu's skill. And that is basically going to allow you to kill anything in the game as long as there's no countdown or defeat, right? Some enemies have a countdown that if you don't kill them in 5 rounds, you die. So as long as there's no countdown in the stage, you can use Lin Daiyu to just like kill the enemy by doing nothing. And this is going to be pretty good with very annoying shields. For example, if you have like a damage reduction, if you forgot to activate your craft and you have a damage reducing resistance of 100% permanently, or if there's a 5 attribute shield and you brought a mono earth team that has no way to dealing with it, you can just use this stall technique to just kill the enemy. But it's not just a stall team, she also has the damage to back her up in order to operate as a normal team. So it's a very nice addition for her to have a stall potential alongside her active skill or her leader skills. So in my opinion, her as a leader is actually pretty good right now because she does good damage. But I will argue that she is going to be one of the few leaders that can kill basically any stage as long as there's no countdown for defeat or an enemy that recovers HP. If the battle has, even in like 2 years, right? If there's a stage that does not have countdown, or if has no oh wait, yeah, if there's no countdown or there's no HP recovery, or there's no what's it called, uncontrollable, because parasitation is a control skill if I'm correct. So as long as there's none of these three skills, basically she can clear any stage, even 2 years in the future. So, you know, do as you may with this information, but in my opinion, she is pretty good. But yeah, moving on to the second jackpot card, we have Pan Jinlian, and she is also actually not bad, and I've seen a lot of people use her, especially for this past ultimate stage. She is a little bit more limited because she limits you to human, elves, and demons, but her playstyle is actually really interesting. She does have a good number of multipliers on her leader skill. Um, Staples like combo increases, EX combo increase, and Dissolving Hearts gives you 6.9 team attack additionally, which is very nice um, because it's inbuilt in her leader skill. And honestly, Dissolving Hearts is definitely not hard because of her team skill of generating heart runes underneath Intoxicating charm members. But yeah, her team skill is actually really good too. We have board debuff nullification, so electrified, frozen, weakened, lock for recovery, weathered, and petrified runes are all reset and become enchanted demon runes. So that's pretty good. No positions will be weathered. It ignores sticky. If you touch a sticky, you enter a hyper state for 2 rounds. You have runestone possession effect, which is insane. 690% the effect of attribute of runestone is absolutely insane. And you also bewitch enemies every time you enter the round, so that's 2 rounds of free attacks that you get. But her main mechanic is that it's one of those where your members just become support for your leader because the only one launching attacks is going to be your leader. She has an inbuilt Luna or an inbuilt Novalis active skill. So she gets the deducted attack of your entire team, multiplies it by 3.69, and adds it to her own attack, and furthermore launches 9 extra attacks with this attack bonus, right? So she is going to be dealing a lot of damage, and she also has a good passive to increase your stats for your entire team. But yeah, so all in all, as a leader, she's actually pretty good. She's pretty nice in my opinion. I tried her out, and she's, granted, the ultimate stage was very much tailored for her, but I think she does good damage, and she has a very interesting active skill. So in terms of leader potential, she's pretty good and definitely worth getting for the current meta right now because she is pretty useful. But her active skill though, her active skill is definitely what's going to make her the most useful in my opinion, even now and in the future. So let's look at her. Her active skill is EP based, and she starts with an EP of 16, and this is pretty significant, and I'll tell you why. Her skill is EP2 only, and this skill is actually not bad for only consuming 2 EP points. She allows another member of your team to launch the same damage as she does. So you're synchronizing your member's attack with Angelian, with which, as you remember, she absorbs your entire team's attack, so her attack is already super high. But yeah. And then you generate a column. Yeah. That's okay. But the big thing is the synchronization of that member with your leader's attack. So as a whole, this is not a great active skill for most teams because most teams don't have Panjinlian's team skill of having a super powerful leader, right? However, by activating her skill, you are unlocking a second active skill that has 3 versions. They are all EP6, and they're right here. They're all EP6 at skill level 12. And in my opinion, this is some of the best utility in one single card. Uh, but there is an RNG component to it. And let's look at it, right? The first one explodes all columns to generate a fixed board based on your members' attributes in the team. So you can basically guarantee a 5 attribute board if you have 5 attributes in your team, etc. etc. You also generate 69 enchanted heart runes. So this is really good for those heart number shields. And you also ignore scorching areas. So this sky drop is not going to deal anything to you because scorching areas are ignored. Then the second one, you lower your damage to 69, so it's basically a defensive skill. And it's pretty good in my opinion because you do enter a fatigue state for 1 round, but that round you're just defending yourself, so that's also pretty good. And the last one is, in my opinion, also one of the best one because it puts your combo count to 69, and that is a very high combo count that will allow you to deal a lot of damage and also ignore a lot of those combo count shields. Also, you ignore equal combo shield, which is a very nice shield break to have because equal combo shield is one of the fewer ones that are easy to deal with depending on the situation, so having a way to ignore it is definitely pretty good. And there is an RNG component because you don't know which one is going to be next, but Panjin Lian has pretty good, because of her active skill being only 2 EP, you can basically cycle through all of them to choose the one that you want. So, in my opinion, this is going to be really good for any teams in the future because it carries a lot of utility for you. So all in all, I think she is going to be amazing as a member. Not only that, she also gives some stat increases passively. So as a member, she is going to be pretty good in my opinion. So yeah, let's move on to the non-jackpot cards and we'll move a little bit faster. We have Blustering Chains, Shangguang Wan her skill is actually pretty interesting. It's actually kind of hard to get all conditions to go off. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you're able to get all conditions off, you get to activate this skill every round. But it is pretty hard because you do need to dissolve a group of 3, a group of 4, a group of 5, and a group of 6 runestones, which it's usually not possible to do every single round. But her effects are actually pretty good. You get extra team attack, CD, enemy delay. You also ignore initial shield and also ignore combo seal and combo nullifying. So honestly, it's very good utility for what it is and also has the potential of being able to be activated every round. So definitely a good card to have. So next up we have Peachy Glamour, Chen Yuanyuan, and Chen Yuanyuan, and she is a fire elf, and actually her skill is pretty useful for elf and demon teams because what she does is she generates 6 bell positions, and for each bell position that you dissolve, you get a +1 into your combo count. And if you dissolve all bells, you get a -1 cooldown reduction for your skills. And that is actually pretty useful in my opinion. And you can deactivate this skill, and when you do, based on the number of kittens that you have, you can generate 1 enchanted rune of your choice, basically. Sorry, a regular attribute of runes for each kitten that you have of the attribute of your choice, or heart runes. And honestly, I think this skill is going to be pretty good just for the first effect, the combo increase and the skill cooldown reduction. For the second one, I think the best use case is when you have max accumulation, max kitties, because it will give you a full board of whatever attribute that you want, and that is going to be pretty useful in certain scenarios. However, if you are not at max accumulation yet, it is going to be random, so I am personally not a fan of random skills, so I would not really activate that second effect and just stick with the combo increase and the skill cooldown reduction. But as a member, she is going to be pretty good for elf and demon teams because that continuous buff is actually pretty good in my opinion. She has a team skill where she enters a stage and she has an immediate -6 cooldown, so it allows you to activate her buff from the beginning of the stage. But yeah, next we have parasitical costs. Cao Feiyan. Yeah, Cao Feiyan, which her active skill is just okay. It's kind of trash actually. It is CD1 though, which allows you to activate it every single round, but it generates weathered heart runes, which stop your movement unless you have a way to ignore it, like Panjin. So this card is basically made for Panjin. And you might be wondering, why did Madhead generate this card that has such a trash skill, in my opinion? And I will say that this skill is not that useless actually, and that is because of her team skill. So if there is a Cao Feiyan in the team, upon each skill activation of an Intoxicating Charms member, the first parasitical cost gains an attack basic value of 1000 to the max of 10,000. And this is why she's actually kind of good. In 10 rounds, because you can activate her skill every single round, you can basically bring your attack basic value to 10,000, and that is very good. That's a very significant chunk of damage, and it applies for any team that you may have. So as a member, she's going to be pretty awesome. It's basically a passive, you know how AR Gemini was really good back in the day because he had a ×6 multiplier to his attack passively. This is basically like that, but flat 10,000 attack basic value. And here's the thing, she pairs really well with Panjin Lian because one, Panjin Lian can ignore the weather runes from her skill and she can just reset them to regular enchanted demon runes, which gives you more flexibility, more attack, because remember Panjin Lian uses heart runes as her main form of attack. But not only that, I tested this and this attack basic value increased gets absorbed by Panjin Lian, and it gets absorbed with a 3.69 multiplier that you have. So every time you activate a skill, you're getting a 3,960 increase to your attack to the max of 39,600, which is an amazing amount of damage for Panjin. So definitely get this card if you're planning on running a Panjin. And lastly, we have Lady Menjiang, and her skill is honestly, I think, one of the least useful ones out of all of them. Basically, you deal a damage of each attribute to the enemies regardless of... Basically, it's a 5 attribute damage shield, which 5 attributive damage to break 5 attribute shields. There we go. And you also get a fixed board of hearts and 10 runes of the enemy's attribute, which is pretty good. And at the end of the round, it also gets generated a full board of hearts and the enemies. So here's the thing, this is very situational because enemies change their attributes very often, and usually a fire enemy will have some sort of debuff on fire rune, so you don't want to have that. For example, enemy water enemies usually have water block. Light enemies can have light electrified, things like that. So usually generating runestones of the enemy's attribute is not good. Also, combo nullifying typically lines up with the enemy's attribute. So generating enemy attribute runes only, it's usually not that good. But I will say that this is pretty good in a Panjinlian team again, because she deals damage of each attribute, and this helps you to break 5 attribute shields. But now that I say it out loud, it doesn't matter because non-attributive damage goes through those shields anyways. So Panjinlian already has a way to deal with. But yeah, so that's the seal. So what are my thoughts actually? So I think this is a very interesting seal, right? Because it plays into something that Madhead hasn't done in a while, and that is going to be a lot of controlling and a lot of cooldown reduction is going on here. And this helps your team activate their skills faster. And this is interesting because, yeah, a lot of them have skill cooldown reduction and a lot of like utility to break enemy shields. And the two leaders are very controlling, you know? Ling Daiyu has her stun, she has her dodge, she has the damage reduction to 0. Pan Jinlian has the 2-round bewitching. So it's a very control oriented series. And it is very interesting because there's no other series that is that control heavy. And honestly, I think it makes for a very good series in my opinion. The non-jackpot cards are also very good in terms of support for in terms of support actually, but only for elf and demon teams. Shangguang Wan has very good utility, but only for elf and demons. Ichi Glamour has cooldown reduction for only elf and demons. Parasitical cost, she can actually be used in any team, and she will benefit from her passive skill regardless. But the best is going to be still a demon team because usually mono demon teams have a lot of perks for demon cards. And yeah, and Lady Menjiang, she is actually, I would say, one of the, I think, the worst card out of all of them. But as a series as a whole, it's actually not that bad for a Madhead original, and I will say this is the best Madhead original series that they have made in a very long time. The era of novelty seals have been very lackluster in my opinion. The 2 jackpot cards that they release every so often are pretty lackluster, and this seal is definitely a breath of fresh air and really good in my opinion actually for a Madhead original non-collab, non-black gold card. Definitely a good thing to have in the game. Now, should you pull for it? And the short answer is yes, I do think you should pull for it, except if you don't have good demon or elf members, or if you have Napoleon. If you have Napoleon, you should definitely save your diamonds for another collaboration or black gold card, because this team is very demon elf heavy. Emphasis on the demon because this team is very demon heavy, and as you can see, all the non-jackpot cards are also either demon or elves, so it is very demon heavy. So if you already have Napoleon, there's not much of a reason to pull for these cards because Napoleon will be pretty good to satisfy your demon needs for a really long time. However, if you don't have Napoleon or if you don't have a good demon team, this is a very good option to get. Even if you don't get Lin Daiyu, getting Pan Jinlian on the way is going to give you a pretty good leader. And the members or the non-jackpot cards are all very good members, even outside the intoxicating charms. There are very universal supports for elf and demons, So, in my opinion, they will still see play in future demon teams, and that is going to be very valuable. So, um, yeah. So basically, in conclusion, you should pull if you need a demon team. However, if you're a new player and you don't have a wide variety of demon cards or elf cards in your team to help satisfy your supply your members, or if you have Napoleon, I do think you should skip this series because we do have some collaborations coming up, as well as black gold cards that are usually very powerful. And because this is a Matter original series, they will add them to future like black gold card pools or uh, or all max selections. So you're definitely not going to be missing out, unlike collaboration cards. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about this series. I tested them; they're actually pretty fun to play. So good luck on your pulls if you decide to pull or save your diamonds for other cards. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say about this series. Uh, as always, please let me know in the comments if I said anything wrong or if I missed out on anything. And check out my YouTube channel for more Tarot Saviors content. But for now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone!生活充满乐趣，开始迎来最初生